All right, guys, so this is a little bit more of an abstract idea. It's probably not taught per se in either the bodybuilding or the powerlifting circles, but some people do it inherently and they don't even notice it. What I'm referring to is with any sort of dumbbell bench or barbell bench, what you may see in a lot of folks or experience yourself is as they're descending into the eccentric part of the motion, the head will actually jut forward as the bar is descending. Now, for a variety of reasons, this could be occurring due to poor thoracic mobility, or what I've been experimenting with specifically in the dumbbell bench is the concept of an extended thoracic spine and a curved shoulder blade. That coupled with more anterior core stability when the head is forward. So those two ideas, the first one, the rib cage and the thoracic spine complex or idea, is that when you have a cervical retraction where you're actually pulling the head back, if you had like a baseball cap on backwards and you're trying to take the bill and touch the wall behind you, what you're going to find with that retraction is it typically is followed by thoracic spine extension. So you'll see my chest kind of pops up a little bit. And that's typical of the spine. It's just like a rope. You take the end of a rope and you slam it down, you're going to see subsequent waves down the rope. Well, the spine's similar to that. If you change one section of the spine, specifically the cervical spine, you're going to get feedback in the thoracic spine. Similarly, if you change the lumbar spine, you may get feedback in the thoracic or the cervical spine. So, what I'm referring to here is when we have that thoracic extension, you may find that as you're benching or as you're going to push in a dumbbell or a barbell variation with more of a bodybuilder focus, so less arch as a whole during the bench, more of a flat back. What you may find is by keeping the head a little bit off the bench and a little bit forward, you keep a more curved thoracic spine, and because of that, you allow for better congruency between the thoracic spine and the shoulder blade. So if we look at our shoulder blade, it's got this curvature to it, and our thoracic spine naturally has that curvature. Now, of course, when we extend, or if we inhale and pull the air into our lungs versus our diaphragm, it's going to pull our rib cage up and forward, so it's going to tilt us up. So basically, what we've done now is we've got our curved shoulder blade, we've got our curved thoracic spine, and normally they fit very well together. The shoulder blade sits snugly up against the rib cage. Now that we've extended the thoracic spine and pulled it a little bit up, we lack that congruency anymore, and if we try to put that rib cage back on a flat thoracic spine, it doesn't fit very well. It's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. So that's the first idea. You have better congruency between the shoulder blade and the rib cage, thus allowing for better force transfer from the torso into the arm and out into the dumbbell. Second idea is we know that any sort of bench variation is a full body variation. Any object has an equal and opposite reaction. That's one of Newton's laws, I can't remember which one, but the idea here is that the force is generated within the feet as you're pushing into the floor, up through the lower body, through the torso, and then out through the arms. Or you could say it's basically you're pushing off the bench with your torso and generating that force with the arms. However you want to look at it, the idea is that the movement starts from being anchored to the floor, and then that energy is pushed out through the arms. So, if you follow Thomas Myers, or if you're aware of his book, Anatomy Trains, it's the idea that there are these fascial trains within the body, and a lot of them are linked. Now, whether or not you buy into it or you hold to those beliefs is a whole other can of worms, but one of his trains, specifically located on the anterior portion of the body, connects the anterior core with the neck. So, in a lot of overextended athletes, what you're going to find is they don't have this forward head posture so much, but they may actually be extended to the point where they walk around like this 24/7, and this feels like normal to them. So what we can do is, if we can get them to bring that rib cage down, it's going to lift their head a little bit forward, which is natural. We're supposed to have cervical spine curvature. But if we put you on a bench, that flattens out again. So again, if we can take the head forward, now we can improve that core stability and the force transfer from the lower body into the upper body, coupled with the more stable shoulder blade on the rib cage. Now we have a much more stable platform and much more force generation throughout the entire body. So it's one little thing to play with, but basically to give you a demonstration, if you're laying back on a bench, instead of allowing your head all the way back, pushed into the bench here, as you're pressing, just pick your head up a little bit and you'll feel your abs start to turn on and engage just a touch more. And then as you come down, hopefully you feel more of a stretch within the pecs themselves, less anterior delt and less shoulder capsule. And then as you're going to press, you should feel a little bit more, I guess you want to call it mind-muscle connection within the pec itself, and then especially as you lie down. So it's just a small little tweak, and it may not necessarily be taught as the most effective way to bench press, the most effective way to power lift, definitely not. And if you're getting stuck during a rep, that's when I would say to drive the head back into the bench, because that can also help to get you through that sticking point. But it can be a tool in the toolbox, so to speak, if you can't really seem to get that mind and muscle connection with your pecs, or it just doesn't feel right when you dumbbell bench for some reason. This can be a potential solution to help you establish that. So when you look at movement from a biomechanical lens, you can kind of play with different pieces of your body and your skeleton, so to speak, in order to augment the other limbs that you're using. So just a different idea, something to get your wheels turning in your head, get you thinking about movement in a different way. So, try it out, give it a shot, and let me know what you think.